Well, they bring home consequences to the officials in China who've been presiding over the repression of the Uyghurs. It is profoundly irritating and inconvenient, to say the least, to the officials who are caught up and also to the institutions that have been sanctioned. But it also, above and beyond that, Yvonne, I would suggest to you, is a sign that the West, after years of being beguiled and bought off by Chinese business and the desire and craving to have more Chinese trade and more Chinese investment, is finally discovering its conscience. The West is discovering the importance of human rights and values and standing up against really what is a 3-year-old genocide, as it's been declared by numerous parliaments around the world. So it's almost like a civilizational awakening that there are values other than profit.
Well, Australia and New Zealand have welcomed the sanctions but not imposed any of their own. Why is that?
Yes, it looks suspiciously like an attack of spinelessness from Australia to not stand with the US, UK, Canada and all of the European Union, and instead to take the soft option with New Zealand. New Zealand has been taking the soft option for a very long time when it comes to confronting China. But people in the government here in Canberra assure me that that's not the fact. The government's position is that Australia couldn't take exactly matching measures, sanctions, as the other Western powers have, because they all have Magnitsky Acts, which they're using to selectively and precisely target named officials and institutions in China. Australia's got a Magnitsky Act in the works, but is still apparently some months away from being legislated, according to the government. So they're saying it's a matter of process and specific legislation rather than political will. The question that Elaine Pearson from Human Rights Watch in Australia asks in response to that is, she has said, but we have a general sanctions act, why can't that be used? And the response from the government to that is that there is such an act, it's never been used, and the reason is it's very restrictive and clumsy and ineffective, and therefore won't be used in this case either. So we're going to have to wait for a Magnitsky Act to roll out of the Australian Parliament sometime later this year, apparently.
Meanwhile, Peter, there are reports US climate envoy John Kerry will be meeting his Chinese counterpart, although no date has been given yet. What might come out of that meeting if it goes ahead?
Well, it's supposedly going to be part of a larger meeting of climate-related ministers, envoys from a range of countries around the world, with the possibility of a one-on-one with Kerry and his Chinese counterpart sometime next week. So what might come out of that directly, we don't know, but even without having to know what the specifics might be, is the mere fact that after that rather spectacular diplomatic face-off, an exchange of ritual abuse, if you like, in the Alaska meeting between senior US and Chinese officials on the weekend, is that despite that, there's apparently still scope for China and the US to work on areas of mutual cooperation where there's something in it for both sides, and in this particular case, climate change.
So a rare opportunity for the two countries to cooperate on an issue that concerns us all. Specifically, what do you think the US and China will be looking to get out of that meeting?
Well, I suppose the first thing will be to agree that there is scope to agree, to take to the April 22 summit that the US is convening on climate change, to take some agreed positions on practical steps to get to the net zero by 2050 commitment that both regimes have notionally committed to.
Peter Hartcher, thanks so much as always.
Pleasure, Yvonne.